Good evening, and welcome to tonight's edition of M.E.R, Men's Equal Rights. Today, we will be talking about time with children, and we will also talk about jurisdiction. First, I'd like to say happy Valentine's Day to all the lovers out there. We celebrate Valentine's Day, and we celebrate love. Make no mistake about it, men's equal rights is about equal rights for everyone, not just men. With that said, we're going to get right into it. Let's bring on our panelist, the one and only, Mr. John Rockmore.
God bless
Mr.
you.
Rockmore, how are you?
I am absolutely blessed, sir. How about yourself?
Excellent, excellent. How are the kids today, Mr. Rockmore? Have you seen them?
I have not seen my kids today. The boy, the young one, he is absolutely fine and beautiful and bad and loved every single day. But I know I have not seen my daughters today.
Wow. Well, I'm sure that they are thinking about you as my daughters are thinking about me. And I will say, Mr. Rockmore, thank you for always being here, especially on Valentine's Day, because I know you've been married for quite some time. How long now?
15 years we've been married. 15
years. Wow, that is a long time to be
together well over 20. She's actually been a great inspiration and a great love of my life. So, you know, I've been fortunate to actually find the soulmate that is real and that is absolutely in my corner no matter what. So I am blessed. I'm absolutely
and highly favored. With that said, Mr. Rockmore, I think Valentine's Day today we will discuss love as well. So I'd like to move on to our very special guest today. This gentleman I've known for quite some time, professionally and personally. He is one of Hollywood's great writers for many of the stars that you know today, such as D.L. Hughley, Sinbad, and many others. He was also a top comedian as he is still today, a winner of Star Search back in the day. That's how deep he is in the comedy game. An actor, comedian, producer, and he's from my hometown of Chicago, and actually the same neighborhood, the South Side of Chicago. Gentlemen, I'd like you to welcome to the forum the one and only writer, producer, comedian, actor, multi-talented, Mr. Geoff Brown. Mr. Brown, welcome to the forum, sir.
Wow. Where are you when I go to court, Mr. Lionel? I need you to introduce me to the judge like that. It's incredible. I didn't know you was talking about me for a minute. What's up?
Well, in actuality, Mr. Brown, yes, I am talking about you. I'm talking about the one and only writer for many of the greats in the entertainment industry, including myself. Mr. Brown, we're excited to have you on the show and happy to hear your story as it comes to family court and your beautiful children. Mr. Brown, can you share your story with us and your experience in family court?
Sure. First, let me say thank y'all so much for having me here. And whatever I can do after this, whatever we can do behind the scenes, whatever you need from me, if you need my pen, if you need my services, if you need me physically there somewhere, let me know. Too many of us cry quietly. Too many of us do not speak up about this. Sadly, I have two separate chapters of saga with regard to the family court system. I have an oldest batch of children I had with my first wife. And then the youngest batch I had with my second. And I had to learn, sadly, and I had to make this apology to my grown sons now, that I had to learn the court system with y'all as practice dummies. That's why my case looks so much better with your younger siblings. Basically, what I'm going through now is that my children, by the grace of the Creator, have been dropped off to me by my ex here at my house. And I'm back in court again to solidify my paperwork with regard to my younger children. Me and my ex broke up 08, and I fought and fought. We lived in Chicago. I believe Mr. Lionel no, I don't know if you came out to my house out there, at a house in Plainfield that wasn't in a gated community, but should have been. When our marriage broke up, she came immediately here. It took me 18 months to get back, but I knew I would be back out here with my kids. And long story short, I was homeless. I slept in my truck, and I don't need a medal for it. It's just a matter of fact that I did this to stay in my children's lives. And my ex did nothing but make it difficult for me to see them, to be with them. So much so to the point that I decided to take her back to court and speak with the judge with regard to getting some regular visitation. In this hearing, she accused me of physically abusing my son. And the judge, he went through and started to ask me a battery of questions. One, do you spank your child with an object? No, Your Honor, none other than my hand. Yes. What do you feel gives you the right to use corporal punishment on another human being? I did not know at the time that spanking is not corporal punishment. Never say corporal punishment in court. I said, here's what gives me the right, Your Honor. Unlike most parents, I am not my children's friend. I am their father. And I'm trying to turn them into the type of people that I would be friendly with. If my son does not listen to me, I pointed at the bailiff. I said, he's going to listen to him. If he doesn't listen to him, he's going to listen to you. If he doesn't listen to you, he's going to listen to his cellmate. And it is my job as his father to see to it that you never, ever warehouse my son. He, which is the abbreviated version of what was really in my heart, which was, you're a white male. There's nothing you could tell me about raising a black son. He said, you strike me as antagonistic and aggressive. Therefore, and with nothing else, with nothing else, you're going to have to go through 6 months of anger management and child rearing classes for me to come back here and determine whether you get to see your children supervised or at all. I was crushed because my children lived right up the street from me and I couldn't see them. So I'm from Chicago. I am no stranger to fighting. I said, okay, I'm fighting again. This time I kind of knew what I was doing. And I wish I could use the brother's name. He is a process server who was a blessing, a guardian angel to me to help me through this in the court system. So I knew when and where to do what. I went to every class. I made a book comprised of, to include Mr. Lionel, every person I knew that could write, that had seen me with my children. I took pictures. I showed documents. I showed the awards that I won as most active parent at my children's school. 6 months later, after doing all of these classes and making this book, and you have to make one for the court and one for her, I go in, the evaluator tells me, look, we're not going to, I'm not here on anybody's behalf but the children. I don't care nothing about you, either of you. Nothing you say is confidential or classified. This is to see what's in the best interest of the children. My kids get off the elevator. The evaluator sees them tackle me in the hallway. Oh, daddy, we missed you. They take them off to speak to them. About 25 minutes later, they put me and my ex in the room with the evaluator. They come back with our criminal reports. She says, ma'am, those children out there attacked that man. They're not afraid of him like you say. I look on his criminal record. This man doesn't have a parking ticket and never has. I strongly suggest that you don't go to the judge with this any further. That was not what she wanted. She persisted. So we go see the judge. The judge looks at the paperwork and says, Mr. Brown, I am happy to say that I misjudged you. And not only do you deserve to be with your children, you deserve to have them 50% of the time. She then pressed the child support order end of things. And he said, ma'am, I cannot do that today. That's not what we're here for. She kept pressing. He looked at the paperwork. He said, ma'am, you're getting more money than you're supposed to already. She asked this man, he's telling her, ma'am, don't make me do this Disso Master, because what she was after was my wife's money. She wanted the money in the household. The judge came right out and told her, ma'am, I cannot make this lady pay for children she didn't have. So he went on and did it. My child support payments then became $16 a month. $16. Let me make that clear. If I give her a 20, she owes me $4. $16 after pressing the judge. Now, cut to the 50-50. We start going back and forth. My children are doing absolutely nothing in her care. Nothing. She is literally warehousing them. All they are when they're with her is not outside. They're not doing their homework. They're not being bathed properly. They're not being fed properly. When they get back to me after a week of not doing their homework, now they got to do homework on my week and the homework they had before, which by default makes me the constant bad guy. There was so much stuff we didn't get to do together because I can't reward incomplete or bad behavior because life doesn't. So I'm having to teach them where they're learning from a father what they should, but the next week they're under the 9 candy bar system of government. So to be able to the pull and tug, it was stressful on them. She took that stress. She also clearly falsified documents to the Pasadena Unified School District, involved a principal. And I guess she didn't think I'd figure it out. I did. That all of this stuff that she had to say was falsified. My lawyer said, look, if you really want to pursue this, she'll go to jail. But there is sensitive information in here about your children that will be made public. It will follow them for the rest of their lives. It will be put on their permanent records. So I deferred. And I let them sit in the 9 candy bar system of government until cut to last week, they could not take it any longer. And she actually, because my daughter decided to go, she wants to stay here to go to college instead of go away, she kicked my daughter out. Took my daughter's cell phone and told her to figure it out. When my son found out what was going on, he let his sister use the phone. She got in contact with me. I was on the way. My daughter got in contact with me. I came straight from work. I'm on my way. She told my son, if your father comes here, I'm going to call the police on him. This is all documented. He said, he emailed me, Dad, I'm afraid. I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want to live here anymore. I don't know what to do. I kept my cool. I got a police report. I went to the police and brought them to the house to check on my children, to make a report. Week later, she goes off on my kids again. And they've had enough. And they come here. The problem is there is so much lost time with my children that was totally unnecessary that I can never get back and that no court really cares about. So I think, and I'm going to always fight for my children. And I do believe I will be victorious in getting exactly what it is that they should have this time. But I guess the caveat for men, the takeaway for men from this is if you don't get nothing else from anything I say, there are three things that have no room, no place in a court of law: right, wrong, and common sense. If you take those concepts into court, you are going to lose time, money, freedom, or all three. Here are two cats on this show. I can tell you, I've gone through it and I've watched my friend go through this. What you need in court are these three things: influence, perception, and documentation. Those things count. And you better have 2 out of 3. Figure out which 2 out of 3, and at another time, I could break what those really are. But you're going to need 2 out of 3 or you don't have a chance.
Mr. Brown, I gotta say that your story is heart-wrenching, and I am personally affected by it. I had no idea you were going through this, and it hurts my heart because I know the excellent father you are.
Thank you, brother.
Personally,
likewise,
I am saddened to hear these sorts of things happening. They happen in many men's lives, and I can't just say across the country, across the globe, Mr. Brown. I have heard from people over in the UK, fathers that are going through parental alienation, going through family court drama, and families being divided. And in most cases, it is the father that is taken out of the children's lives. And then once the children become too much for the mother to deal with, then they want to go find the father and drop the kids off with him when he has had no regular rearing in that child's life. There's no regularity. So the father has to reacquaint himself with his own children. Mr. Brown, I commend you for keeping yourself together in this situation. I commend you.
Thank you,
Mr. Brown. I take my hat off to you.
Thank you.
It's a difficult situation to hold it together in because we're talking about your babies. The fact that they suggested supervised visits.
Yes.
How did that make you feel, Mr. Brown?
It was hard not to cry in court. It was hard not to break down. But the sad part is that I had become so numb to negativity and rejection with regard to the court system that all I was angry. And I was then determined, because it felt like that finger in your chest of the bully. And this was about my children. You're talking about a whole different kettle of fish here. There are many words, many choice, colorful words I'd like to use with regard to my lack of concern with anything to do with my ex, other than not only do I know that you have my children, and that you're trying to keep me away from them, but I know what they're going through with you because you're horrible. I happen to know that the conditions they're under. I think that was what was bothering me, Mr. Lionel. As you've heard me say before, I said this to the court, Your Honor. When my ex drops my kids off, me and my wife don't even bring their clothes in the house because of the stench. To be honest with you, when I go to her house, I wipe my feet on the way out so as not to get the earth dirty. She is really.
Mr. Brown, allow me to interject.
Is that not? Are we all? Okay, let me get back on the road. My feelings.
In the interest of comedy, that's understood. But
yes.
let me just make it clear to our viewers that Mr. Brown is also a comedian, and at any time that particular comedy mindset can come on, and we not in any way, M.E.R or Men's Equal Rights are ever bashing anyone under any circumstances on this show. And we do enjoy humor at times, especially on Valentine's Day, Mr. Brown.
Okay.
My question to you more than anything is, there was a cost. You said I had to take anger management class.
Oh, yes.
Classes and parenting classes. Do you mind sharing with us the cost? If not, I understand.
Oh, you mean from a financial standpoint?
From a financial standpoint.
I don't remember the exact dollar amount, but I do remember that it was once all said and done, well over $1,000 to do from start to finish with regard to filing fees, fees for the classes. And there are waivers that you can get in order to not have to pay the fees. But they were very costly, and more than costly, to me, they were shameful and humiliating, and not because of the company that I was with. It's not for me to judge the people I was with, but it is absolutely for me to judge the unfairness upon which this was thrust on me. And this is my kids. This is not me my kids live in LA and I live in Miami. This is my kids live in Altadena. I live in Pasadena. I could literally run to my children's house, but I was not allowed to see them. And I knew
Did they put a restraining order in place?
No, they just said I was not allowed to see them and that it would jeopardize the case if I did.
Yes, that's a common thing in family court.
Oh, excuse me, Mr. Lionel. Let me interject.
Brown.
The reason that you're not given a restraining order, or no, let me not make the court complicit in this. Here's a byproduct of you. Yeah, there you go. Here's a byproduct of you not getting an official restraining order. You see, if you break an official restraining order, a police report is filed, names, dates, places, and faces are involved, and that's taken to court. If the judge just plain old say you can't see your kids, all she has to say is that you did. You followed her through a store. You accosted her in a parking lot. And the judge, I have seen this over and over and over in cases while I'm in court. Men crying. Men being pulled out by bailiffs. She's lying. That's not true. That didn't happen. The judge yells for order in the court, admonishes the man for his behavior, and keeps moving, and doesn't at all address the validity of the accusation. And I think more than anything here, what happens, and again, I'm going to speak on my own. I'm not coming from a funny place. This is my particular opinion, and nothing I want to lend on the platform or to the channel. This is from Geoff Brown, writer, comedian. It is my firm opinion that single mother is one of the hardest jobs to do, especially now. And it takes a noble woman to do it well. But there are many women who are far less than noble, far less, and are single by either choice or choices. And they hide behind that moniker and do all manner of evil to the fathers, yes, but every father I know would agree, more than us, to our children. And it is those people, along with the court, that must be brought to heel. It is, and it can't just be the men. There's some sisters out there. There's some women out there. You know who foul is. You know what foul is. If not in the name of a man, in the name of men, regardless to what compartment you may have them in your mind, whether you have them in the horrible compartment or not, let your man off the cross with you long enough for you to be rational enough to check that sister that you know is wrong, keeping that child from its father. That is nothing but evil.
Yes, yes, I concur, Mr. Brown. You took the classes. You said you did all the classes that you were ordered to do or requested
Yes,
to do.
yes.
And did that change anything as far as your custody situation, as far as your time with your children?
Absolutely it did. That is the stuff I did in order to get 50-50 in the first place. That was
Okay.
the stuff that was the first lie. The second one came after my children started to live with me and they were not being taken care of. Their scholastics were not being taken care of at all. Their hygiene was not being taken care of at all. When they came to my house, it was so tough that we had something called here gear. You need to get into the here gear. You're at daddy's house. You can't just step out your clothes and leave them. Everybody got a job. Even this little funky dog, this little Shih Tzu here got a job. Everybody from him up to me has a job. You have to be accountable. Your job is to take care of your belongings, your schoolwork, and your atmosphere. That's your job. You ain't got to keep no lights on. You ain't keep no gas in the cars, no food in the table. We'll take care of all that. We need you to do your work because you're going to have to do this. And I break it down to them even little. I'm giving you the little building blocks now so that you can build on your life and be sustainable, rational adults that don't have to live with me.
Yes.
I'm teaching you how to be self-sufficient and why you need to do this. And what they're little. All that sounds cute, but all they know is now we got double work when we go to daddy's house. And daddy is not playing around. Oh, it's going to get done. Anything a teacher asked me, I would go up to my teacher's schools, my kids' schools, and I give the teacher my business card. If you have any issues with any of we'll tell the story about my son Julian later, and maybe not even on this show. But yes, here's my card. If you're having any problems out of any one of my children, all you got to do is hold it up.
And Mr. Brown, let me say this, and then we're going to open up the floor to questioning from any viewers and from Mr. John Rockmore, who is on the panel. First of all, Mr. Brown, the situation that you're dealing with is not uncommon, unfortunately. This is what they do to majority men in family court, and they do to some women. We did have a lady on not too long ago from the organization Chidentity, and she spoke. Her name was Lala Justice. She spoke of the same experience that you have had and that I have had and that Mr. Rockmore has had. So please know that you're not alone, and that's the purpose of
Absolutely.
Men's
Absolutely.
Equal Rights Forum and Support Group, so that we can all come together and be heard, and the stories be told until eventually we make a change in this country. So
Yes.
once again, I commend you, Mr. Brown, and I'd like to go to John Rockmore. Mr. Rockmore, are there any questions you first have for Mr. Brown, and then any coming from our other panelists as well as viewers?
Without a doubt, there is some from the other panelists, and I'm going to try to be short because most of the questions that I had, you've already answered them. But the theme of our show today is about parental alienation. And parental alienation is described or defined as not a behavior, but a group of behaviors. And you pretty much covered the gauntlet. I had questions like, has your former spouse prevented communication? You said right at the top of the show, took her phone. So that's a source of preventing the communication. Has she manipulated the children into thinking negatively about you? Well, of course, because now when I go to daddy, it's all about work. It's all about accountability. So hers, you know what? You ain't got to do that. If you stay here, you don't got to do nothing. So that, even that part of it becomes a behavior of sorts that doesn't benefit the children whatsoever.
At all.
I'm with you. My kids, I said, put me on the speed dial. My kid's job was to shut up. If there's a problem, as soon as you open your mouth to the teacher, you're wrong. I cannot defend that. You be quiet, let daddy come, and I will take care of it. But I had many of the same things that you have gone through because, you know, it's all about studying. You know, I'm fortunate, kids went to college and so forth, but at the end of the day, I wanted them to play the sport. I didn't want them to need the sport. More academic money out there than there ever will be sports money. You just got to go and get it. But I digress. Now, did your ex consistently interrupt the visitations when it was time for them to come?
No, I didn't have that issue with this particular ex. That was an issue with my older children.
Okay.
Where, yes, I will. I'll tell this story. My older children, Mr. Lionel knows this story fairly well. My older children, their mother moved a convicted felon in over them, and he was driving her car around, and it wasn't something I was happy with. He and I had a couple conversations with regard to how I felt about my children. And on this one particular day, and this was after going to court and getting a horrific child support settlement. That's a whole nother, whenever you have a child support show, I'd love to come on. I think I have some foolproof stuff for young cats to see that they don't get their leg caught in the financial bear trap that I did. However, I was going to pick
Mr. Brown, just before you continue, let me interject.
Sure.
We will definitely have you back to discuss child support at length. But please allow me to remind you, knowing that you are from Chicago, to definitely, when you are speaking of particular instances that you might be personal about, please.
To un-Chicago them?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe I can do that, Mr. Lionel. Yes. Okay. Yes. And thank you for that precursor. I actually, there was I had to drive from where I was living, which was Inglewood, to the meeting place was the Upland Police Department, the parking lot. So I drove out there. They were late. No big deal. I was early. I'm sitting here, I'm waiting. I said, you know what? I'm going to go get gas. They're already late. It's already, I was supposed to pick them up at 8. It's already 8:10. there had been a playoff game, and I knew that this guy liked basketball. So I'm like, I'm not tripping on it. I'm not, oh, you was like, none of that. I just want my sons. I go to get gas. I see them going in the other direction. I'm like, okay, cool. I'll get the gas. I come back. This dude decides that he's going to reprimand me for being late. I choose to say nothing. He then won't let my kids out of the car. Ladies and gentlemen, the following is textbook restraint. I'm a United States Marine. I am from Chicago. I have a 2nd degree black belt in Shori Goju. No, I'm not going to go into Mr. Lionel's past. I have a 2nd degree black belt in Shori Goju. I also used to box in the Marine Corps. I know well how to defend myself. I chose not to. I let him take the children. I then went to their front door and I called the Colton Police Department. When the police officer got there, I said, "Good evening, sir. I hate to bother you with this. There's other stuff you could be doing. But I have an official court order that says that I am supposed to have my children. And here's what happened." I broke it down to him. He made dude sit down and shut up. And I got my children. Because the court order is what is the stone. It is what the police will follow. It is what will save you as long as you are abiding by those rules. In any report made about you, do not be outside of the court order. If you are dealing with an unruly individual, it is only a matter of time before he or she is outside of the court order. You need to establish a track record of this individual being disobedient with the court order, because the court order is in the best interest of the children.
And let me interject, Mr. Brown, what you said was absolutely correct. I concur. And that was the best way to do it. So many men end up in prison behind situations like that because you're emotional over your children. That is the most difficult thing that you had to do. You had to make a choice to go against all of your training and your upbringing. You went against all of that in order, well, for the sake of your children, in order for the outcome in this situation to be a good outcome.
For the long game.
Yes, and I would suggest to the listeners that you follow that example, because what Mr. Brown did was correct. And knowing you personally, I know how extremely difficult that was.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you were able to do that, did you get your children for the time that you were supposed to have them after that?
I did. And she was their mother was standing out and yelling tirades at me, which I had the police make a report of. If you don't mind, officer, could you please record their behavior? Because they were beginning to upset him too. Because it was very clear what had happened.
This is an example of someone making the right choices and doing things the right way in the best interest of the children. Mr. Rockmore, are there any questions out there coming from the panel or coming from any viewers?
Absolutely. There are several coming from the panel with all the things that you've been through and looking at how you handle the situation. And still got to ask you, how has this affected you psychologically?
It's been a weight. Let me put it that way. I have spent my entire adult life from the age of 23, I'm 55, fighting to be in the lives of my children. And sometimes you just don't know how heavy the weight is until you catch yourself not thinking about it. When you catch yourself catching yourself because you found yourself in a good mood. When good moods become foreign to you, when happiness becomes something that always has an asterisk, it's rough on you from so many places. First off, the true irony is that the fathers who do not care do not go through this. It's the fathers that care enough to fight for their children that get drugged through this system. The knowing that my children are being bathed in untruth about me. The knowing, but the truth is, last weekend, all 5 of my children sat in my backyard and we ate dinner and watched the sun go down. And I must say, were it not for my perseverance, were it not for my creator, were it not for my friends, if I were a lesser man with lesser friends and a lesser connection to source, I would be destroyed, brother. I have seen so many brothers that, please understand that it just so, and it wasn't just me, my wife, I have to take my hat off to my present wife. We're coming up on 9 years of marriage. Mrs. Brown was the cornerstone that gave me the guts to fight again for my younger children. Because I was broken as I stood in that hallway and cried like somebody stole my bike because I knew I would never abuse my children. In fact, as it pans out, it is she who is abusive to my children. And I knew that these were lies about me and fabrications about me. And even armed with all the knowledge I had. And by the way, for me, and I've spent just at about $95,000 on lawyers over the years.
Yes, I'm well aware of that price. Myself, $250K in.
Easy.
Earthquake, $1 million in. Even to my knowledge, Sherry Shepherd over $1 million, maybe even $2 million. The family court system is literally bleeding families dry of all of their resources. This is money that can go towards college funds and starting out lives and building lives. Just on a whole nother subject. And then we need to take another question from the panel, Mr. Rockmore. If you see any other questions, I'd like you to bring one out. But just so people know, it was not always about that. Since this is Valentine's Day, there was a time that we were in love. There was a joyous time. Mr. Brown, can you remember a good time that you had with your ex?
Mr. Lionel, I would rather not, because I'm going to eat right after this. But since in the interest of our friendship, sure.
Well, I will share a good time.
Okay. Well, no, I can share one. I can share one.
Okay,
if
go ahead.
It's all right. I'd like to share because this one has a message in it. I'd like to share how it is that I met my children's mother. Okay. I was a writer.
First or second mother? You have two.
This is wife number 2. This is mother number 2. Yes. Okay. I was. I had been out of a divorce for a couple of years. I was writing on a television show called Vibe. I think you remember well, Mr. Lionel. Used to come up to Television City all the time. Right there at CBS. And
Sinbad and Chris. First Chris Spencer's show, then Sinbad.
And we were across the hall from the Steve Harvey show. So in one hallway, Sinbad, me, Sully McCullough, Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, Buddy Lewis, Alex Thomas, who was doing warm up, the foolishness that would go on in that hallway. We would have each other to tears on a daily. So one day, everybody was discussing the topic of discussion became Geoff Brown's hedonism, so to speak. I was a fresh bachelor. I was horrible. And they said, Geoff, we're all comedians, but you, what are you doing? And I said, okay, if I'm going to be with one woman after this hell that I have been through, she is going to have the following. One, she got to have her own stuff. I got my own stuff. Two, she has to be college educated. Three, she has to have a great relationship with her father. And four, please God, let her be black. Right when I said that, my ex walks by. Here are the things I didn't know. Because we got together, we started to date. And one, she had her own stuff, or so I thought. Her father was paying for all that. I didn't know that. I had no idea she was broke. Nobody around me was broke. Quincy Jones wasn't broke. Sinbad wasn't broke. None of that. I was on the writing staff. The band wasn't broke. What's she doing here broke? Ain't nobody. This is a TV show. Nobody's broke. So, college educated. I had no idea that the school she said she went to, she flunked out of.
Wow.
Great relationship with her father. Absolutely horrible relationship with her mother. The one that to this day is the core. And oftentimes it is a parent, father or mother, that is the core of why you are having the problem with your spouse. I asked the universe for the wrong things.
Which were?
College educated, got her own stuff, love her daddy, let her be black. And that's exactly what I got. When had I asked to heal myself first, to make myself whole before I decided to share a splintered part of me with someone else, and to accept excellence, only excellence everywhere in my life, to include and to start with me. That's what I asked myself before I met Mrs. Brown. And that's how I got the present Mrs. Brown.
Might I say that the present Mrs. Brown is absolutely everything that you require in excellence.
Brother, look, I married up. Everybody know I married up. I just keep coming back to the same house and doing the same thing.
If there's a such thing as someone winning the game, Mr. Brown, I believe you're one of those people.
Sir, the only way to put it, this is the way I like to put it. I came to Vegas with a pile of money. I was leaving broke. And I was on my way out of the casino with my last quarter at the last slot machine. And I said, what the heck? I'm not going to do anything with this quarter anyway. I dropped it in there and won $25 million, which is why it is so easy for me to leave the casino. I'm done. Brother, as hard as it is to believe, Mrs. Brown is more beautiful on the inside. She's an incredible person and is the person who has mothered my children. Without question, brother, I have no idea what kind of people my children would be had they not had this woman in their lives.
Yes, and we're talking about the current Mrs. Brown, and I can attest to all of that. And you said she's beautiful on the inside. Might I say she is definitely a dime on the outside as well.
Yeah.
With respect, Mr. Brown. I'm
understood,
saying
bro.
that with
You just
respect.
telling the truth. Don't nobody want to be with nobody. Don't nobody want to be with nobody. Don't nobody want to look at. That's all right.
Exactly. And let me say this in light of the parents of your two beautiful children. There were some good times there too. I distinctly remember a time that I had come over with my wife at the time. and we sat down, and you beat me in chess, which I owe you for, Mr. Brown, and I will not forget that.
Okay.
But I digress.
Yes.
You beat me in chess, and then we had an amazing dinner that was
Yes.
cooked by the mother of your children, who was the Mrs. Brown of that time.
That Mrs. Brown 2.0. And if we keep talking about her, I'm going to have to throw up in this shoebox. Go ahead.
I digress, but this is Valentine's Day. I just wanted to remind you that
you're making it worse, Mr. Lionel.
There was some love there somehow, somewhere. So, John Rockmore,
Yes,
a question from one of the panelists.
Without a doubt. And let me start with, before the question, your message is so strong, and I'm glad that you're able to make light and to make us smile at the same time.
It's the only way I can live with it, man.
Without a doubt, your message was strong, but even as strong as your message was or is, what would be the message that you would say verbally to our men that watch this show and our women that watch this show? And what would your verbal message to them be?
I'm not quite sure. And I'm going to try. I'm going to be as truthful as I can. As a woman, I can't see from my vantage point and the times that I have been to court to give women advice on what to do in court would be like giving the 96 Bulls advice against the Milwaukee Bucks. There is such a female bias in court. It's tremendous. And this is not, I didn't make this up. You can Google female bias and in court will pop up without you typing it. I would say to young men the following. One, just as a young man, separate yourself from your social security number. That's a whole nother show. Two, as soon as it gets funky between you and her, you think it's going foul, and you're for sure this is it. The one who files first files best. Go and get, if you're going to get a divorce, you file it. Get an income and expense declaration immediately to let the court know what it is you make. Fight tooth and nail for 50% custody because that is what you are owed, and parenthetically, that is what one of the factors that child support is set up on, which is why so many women fight so hard, and we just think every other weekend and 2 weeks in the summer is what everybody gets. No, it isn't. You can get 50% custody, and then guess what? Your child support payments are cut by 50%. Document everything. Everything. Do not give to the children or the mother anything outside of the court order. It cannot work in your favor.
It does not.
It does not. If she calls and says we ain't got no food over here and the lights is out, about all you can bring her is a bow and arrow and some matches. Do not. Do not. You can take this. I cannot give you any more money. You sick these dogs on me. It is not my fault how much they eat. This is to mean that your kids don't get your child support. State get a big old cut of that. People don't. That's a whole another show. What you want to do is have your paperwork together. Get out in front of it now. Get out in front of it early. Do as much as you can improper. Improper means by yourself. It's Latin for sucker, but you got to take that road if you don't have any money, because most lawyers are, and this is just, I haven't given my money to a lawyer that I didn't wind up on the feces end of the stick. Most of my help has come on my own. Stuff I've had to learn. Once I was held in contempt of court, I was given a lawyer, and those lawyers did more for me than others because I had a lot of my paperwork together. But keep your documentation and your paperwork. Take pictures of you and your children. Talk to the people who are around you who will speak up on your behalf. Have them on deck, because when you go to court, it's not what you think.
And that's something that you and I practice. We don't just talk about it. We are about it. We
Absolutely.
walk the walk. Mr. Brown, let me ask you about something that you told me a while back. You said that you had let your hair grow, and you didn't know why you were letting it grow so long, and you discovered it had to do with your daughter. Touch on that a little bit, Mr. Brown.
Okay, yes. Let's go back to when I was in. I used to live in Plainfield, right outside of Chicago, in a pretty nice suburb. And long story short, my ex took my daughter, and she was pregnant with my son, and left me like I was beating her and on my skin. I have never put my hands on a woman. I went to bed with $9,000 in the bank. I woke up with 48. She cleaned the account out, drove back to California, and I was left there because I wasn't going to screw my credit up. I had to fold these tents down and get back. But there was like a starter pistol that went off as I saw my daughter at 3 years old backing out of the driveway, that there was no way I was going to try to parent across state lines. I wasn't going to do it. It was a mistake. It was a mistake with my older sons who were in their late teens. I think when I moved to Chicago, my youngest son was 17. They knew how to find me. I knew how to find them.
And so what happened, Mr. Brown?
Yes, after she left, I'm and you know me, Mr. Lionel. I can't cut my own hair. I keep a fade. But I just decided, I said, you know what, I'm gonna grow an afro after all these years. And I kept growing it and kept letting it grow, and I didn't know why. And it came to me one day looking at a picture of my daughter who was 3, and I broke out and wept openly. And the hair came down into my face, and it came to me that this is why I'm keeping my hair, is because I love my hair. My hair is soft. I have what black folks like to call Indian hair. My hair is very straight. It's very soft. I get a lot of compliments on it. That's the same thing with my baby. So I kept this hair until I could get back to seeing her again. And I still had it long. And it hit me that I didn't need it anymore. So it was almost like dreads in a journey. I don't know if I could have kept myself sane if I'd have been cutting my hair, Mr. Lionel. Something as simple as that. And you don't know what pushes fathers over the edge.
And I will say, Mr. Brown, in that when I saw you, just as my friend, I said something is truly wrong. And it wasn't that you looked bad, but I saw your pain. And it became my pain. And I didn't even know what you were hurting so bad about because you were silent about it. And that's what this show is about. This show and this group, and please subscribe to this forum and this support group, Men's Equal Rights, M.E.R. It's about this. I had no idea how much pain my friend was in when I saw him. And I call him Mr. Brown because that's the way we talk to each other, just a sign of respect and fun and funny. But it's Geoff and Ev. But I didn't know you were in so much pain. And you did, it was as if you just you let yourself go, and you never told me what was going on until you got Bailey back in your life and you started seeing your children. Then I saw the friend that I know come back to life.
Wow.
And I'd like to say to the public, if there are men out there suffering, or women, or both suffering, that is what this forum, this support group is all about. Please join M.E.R. Please know more about men's equal rights, and also the group Chi-Identity started by Lala Justice. Before we wrap it up, Mr. Brown,
Sure.
I'd like you to tell them how they could reach you. And I've expressed all your many, many talents in the comedy, acting, and producer world, but I didn't mention that you produce music. You're an accomplished musician and a music producer as well.
Yes.
And you also create beats. If someone needs a beat out there, or they need a writer, tell them how they can contact you, Mr. Brown.
Go to Geoff Breeze Music at Gmail, or SoundCloud /Geoff Breeze, GeoffBreez. And you can contact me there. You will also, if you look up on YouTube, just Geoff TV, GEOFF space TEE, no space, VEE, you will see another interesting show that I have there, where you can see me talk to people. I play my music, and we talk about all different types of things. You can catch me on the DL Hughley radio show Tuesday through Friday, and writing for his show on Fridays on Pluto TV.
Any other social media platforms they can check you out on?
Oh yes, at GD Funny Style is the Twitter and the Instagram. I also do life coaching. You can hit me at Ask Uncle Geoff, GEOFF, at Gmail with any of your questions. We can set some time up and get it started. And yeah, that's about it. That, and let me say, I should have known, Mr. Lionel, when you told me that you were involved with something, that it was together. It always has been. That's why we refer to each other as Mr., is because Hollywood has a shortage of grown men, namely grown black men. So we refer to ourselves as Mr. Brown and Mr. Lionel. And Mr. Lionel, I'm really impressed with this platform. Holler at me, man. Anything you need.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Please like and share all of our shows. You can get the shows on YouTube. You can get them on Facebook Live. You can go to the Men's Equal Rights page and join the page, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Mr. Rockmore, how can they reach you?
Oh, you can go to Rockmore Entertainment Group, and that's our website. And you can reach me at john@rockmoreentertainment.com. And I just want to be the first one to call Uncle Geoff and find out how I can get that good hair, because that's my
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you two things. That was
Yes, sir.
two things. One, good hair is any hair that comes through the scalp and does not catch fire in the sun. Ain't no such thing as bad hair. Number two, I meant to say this. To you who are watching, do not for a second take this thinking that we are trying to tell you we're angels. We are not. We are imperfect human beings. But in any of our imperfections, you will not find a reason for us to be kept from our children.
Amen.
And we shouldn't have to be perfect to see them, because the people keeping them from us certainly aren't perfect, and by default that they keep us from our kids.
Absolutely. And with that said, we'd like to thank you all for joining our Men's Equal Rights Show, M.E.R, our Valentine's Day edition. And we'd like to ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel or join us on Facebook, Men's Equal Rights. My name is Evan Lionel. Feel free to hit me on IG, Evan Lionel 2898, or Facebook anytime. This show is not designed to bash anyone, but to uplift and support those who are in need and those who are suffering in silence. We are here. Join us. Men's Equal Rights, M.E.R. Thank you. See you next Sunday.
God bless. Thank you,
now.
Mr.
Peace.
Brown.
Anytime, brothers.